RESTful APIs let different parts of a system talk to each other using the standard HTTP methods. They are the most common way developers build and consume APIs today. And in this video, you'll learn how to design clean REST APIs by following the proven best practices so that you avoid creating messy and inconsistent patterns that make the APIs hard to use and maintain. We'll start by learning about the architectural principles and constraints of RESTful APIs, about the resource modeling and URL design, also the status codes and the error handling, as well as filtering, sorting, and so on. And we'll learn the best practices when using and developing RESTful APIs. Let's start from the resource modeling. Resources are the core concepts in REST. Let's say you have the business domain, which consists of the products, orders, and reviews. When modeling these to a RESTful API, you usually convert these into nouns and not verbs, meaning that the product becomes products, order becomes orders, and same for the reviews. These can be collections or individual items. For example, this first request, which is to /API/products, will return you the collection of products, not a single product. But on the other hand, you could have /products and /specific ID of a product, which will return you the individual item. And notice that we are using /products when retrieving the collection of products, and we are not using something like get products, which will be not a best practice in RESTful APIs. As I mentioned, we are using nouns here and not verbs. So to fetch orders, for example, you don't define the URL as get orders. You just define it as /orders, and depending on the method that we'll use, let's say it's a get method, then you will retrieve the orders. If it's a post method, then you will create an order, and so on. So all the resources should be clearly identifiable through the URLs. For instance, this is an example of getting a collection. This is an example of getting a specific item. And also nested resources should be clear defined. For example, if you want to retrieve reviews for some specific product, then we would assume that if you make a request to /products, /ID of that product, and then /reviews, you would get the reviews for that specific product. But in real-world APIs, you rarely want to return all the results at once. That's why we usually incorporate filtering, sorting, and pagination in APIs. So let's start from the filtering. For example, if you make a request to get all the products, you usually add some query parameter, which in this case you can see it's category. So you're first of all filtering them by category. And then also with the and sign, you add that they should be in stock. So the in stock should be true. And this way you are only returning the items that you're going to display on the UI. And you're not making some requests that will waste the bandwidth of this API. And also it will be a huge response for you in the front-end side. Next, we also have sorting. In this case, again, it's controlled through the query parameters. And query parameters are anything that start after the question mark in the URL. So in this case, you usually pass the sort attribute. And this can be, for example, ascending by price or ascending by reviews, or it can be also the descending order. So based on this, you will get the response from the API in a sorted order. Because if you, for example, have 1,000 items in the backend in the database, you don't want to retrieve all of these in unsorted order to the frontend, because let's say the frontend now needs to sort them by the price ascending. This means that it needs to make requests to get all of the products, which are these 1,000 items that you have in the database. So that will be very inefficient. That's why we do the sorting in the backend instead. So your backend should support sorting functionality. This way the frontend can just make a request to your backend and pass this sort query parameter. And then that way it will get the sorted products to be displayed on the screen. And next we also have pagination. Again, with the query parameter, you usually pass the page which you want to retrieve and also the limit. Because if you don't pass the limit, then again it will give you all of the products starting from the page 2 till the end, which can be a lot of items. So you also pass some sort of limit, and that limit is whatever you're going to display on the front end. And then based on that, you will get the response. And here, let's say you fetched 10 items. So you're going to display those 10 on the UI. And then once they click on the next page, you will make another request to the page 3 this time. And you will get the next items from the server. Now, usually we use page for pagination, but there is another common attribute that is offset. So some APIs use offset instead of the page, and they use this in combination with limit, which basically means if you have 1000 items, so offset will tell the API from where to start counting these 1000 items. And the limit is the same as you have it here. So it's basically limiting the number of items that you are getting from this offset to retrieve to the front end. And the last option, you can also have this cursor based. So instead of page and limit, you would pass a cursor, which will be the hash of the page you want to retrieve. So this approach of adding filtering, sorting, and pagination comes with benefits. So first of all, it saves the bandwidth of your server. It also improves the performance both in the server side and on the front end side. And it also gives the front end more flexibility because now you can fetch only the things that you need and not some unnecessary data from the database. Now let's come to the HTTP methods that REST APIs use because they rely on HTTP protocol and hence they are using the HTTP methods, especially for CRUD operations. So these are the most common types of CRUD operations you would see in REST APIs. First of all, we have the get method, which is used for reading data from the API. So this is for retrieving resources, as you saw, like retrieving the products, retrieving the reviews, and so on. And the URL usually looks like this. You make a get request to the /API/version of the API /the resource name. And these type of requests are both safe and idempotent, which basically means if you make a request to /products 2 or 3 times, you expect to receive the exact same output every time, unless some new products obviously have been added to the database. Next, we have the post method. This is usually when you're creating a resource in your server. The common example is, again, you will make the request to exact same endpoint as you have it for the get to create a collection. But in this case, instead of get, you are using post method. And this tells the API that you need to create a resource in the products and not retrieve them. These type of requests change the state of the server. They are adding a new item and also they are not idempotent, which means that they are creating a resource. So the first time you create a resource, you will get the ID of the first item that you created. The second time you create it, you will get the ID of the second one and so on. Next, we have the put and patch methods, which are very similar, where they are updating resources in your API, but they do it a bit differently. The put method replaces the whole resource, whereas the patch method partially updates the resource in your API. Now you can see that the request URL is exactly the same in both of their cases. So it's to /products/ID of a product you want to modify. Just in case of the put request, it will take this whole product with the ID of 123, and it will basically replace it with the new one that is coming from the front end. Whereas in case of the patch, it will again take this item from the database with ID 123, but it will update it partially. Let's say you just updated the title from the front end and you made the request with patch method. So this will only update the title of this product and it will leave the other parts, other properties unchanged. And the last CRUD operation is delete, and we use delete method in this case. And obviously, as the name tells, it deletes the resource from the database. So again, the URL is exactly the same as you have for modifying items. It's to /products/ID of the resource. And in this case, you are not passing anything in the request body. So you are just making a delete request to this item and you are removing this from the database. And each of these operations return you different status codes depending on how the request went, whether it was successful or not. For that, we have status codes and error handling in RESTful APIs. So you should use the appropriate status codes when working with REST APIs. For example, the 200 series are for successful requests. For example, 200 is okay, 201 is resource has been created, 204 is there is no content here. Let's say you made a request, the previous request we were talking about, to /products/ some ID of a product, and you successfully retrieved this item. This means that you also need to set the status code to 200 because the request has been successful. In the other case where you're creating a product and you're making a post request to /products, this time you shouldn't respond with the same 200 code because 200 generally means that the status was okay. But in 201 case, it means that the resource has been created. And in this case, since you're creating a new product, you should obviously respond with the 201 status code, meaning resource has been created. We also have 300 series, which are for redirection. Let's say you make a request to a URL, and now this URL has been moved to somewhere else. So it will respond with a 300 series, and it will redirect you to the new URL. In 400 series, we have the client errors. So this is whenever your front end made a bad request or the user made a bad request. For example, 400 is a generic bad request. In 401, we have unauthorized requests, meaning the user is not authenticated to make this request. For 404, we have not found. So generally, when you visit some URL or you make a request for some specific resource that doesn't exist, you would get this 404 status code. So for 400 case, let's say you made a request with invalid parameters or some wrong JSON format. In this case, you would get a generic 400 bad request. But if a user makes a request to get some product, which is, let's say, the product with this ID, and it doesn't exist in the database after querying it, then you should respond with the 404 status code, meaning that the resource has not been found. And lastly, we have 500 series. These are things when error happens in your server, so you don't know the exact reason, and it's also not a client error, meaning client requested everything properly. And in this case, we throw unexpected server-side errors. You generally respond with a server error message, and you return the 500 status code along with it. When it comes to best practices of RESTful APIs, first of all, notice that we are using plural nouns for all of the resources. So instead of /product, we are using /products for retrieving the products collection. So you should always use the plural in this case. Also in the CRUD operations, we use the proper HTTP methods. For example, when making a request to delete users, we expect to make a request to users/ID of a user, and not some post request to /users/ID. So first of all, the HTTP methods needs to be properly set up, and also the URL. We don't expect some random things like /delete to delete a resource from the database. As you saw, we also support filtering, sorting, and pagination in good REST APIs. Not only pagination, for example, in this case, we only have the page free, but we cannot limit the amount of products that we want to retrieve. Whereas in this case, we can fully control what we want to get from the API. We want to get the items from page free. We want this number of limit to be applied on the products. And we also want to apply some sort like sorting to sort the price or sort by ratings and so on. And also versionings in the RESTful APIs. As you noticed in all of these requests, they all come with a prefix, which is /API, and then / the ID of the API, which is either v1, v2, v3, and so on. So let's say in the future you migrate your API and you start using a bunch of new features, but you also break something in the previous version one. Then if you use the versioning, you won't break it on the front end because they can use the old version of your API and still use the old features and functionalities while you continue to develop the new version, let's say version 3, and you support new features here, and you might have broken something here, but they are still using the old API, so this doesn't impact the end users. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to check out this video next, where you'll learn about the other types of APIs as well.